C.S. Lewis argues that Jesus cannot be merely a moral teacher because his claims about himself, if untrue, would make him either a madman or a deceiver. Lewis concludes that we cannot view Jesus as an ordinary person, but must confront the choice, either accept him as Lord or reject him entirely. He also emphasizes that the question isn't what we do with Jesus, but what he will do with us. The stories in the Bible about the resurrection and other acts of Jesus are seen as a new mode of existence in the universe, not just mere survival after death. If this message resonates with you, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments, or we move on to the next enlightening topic. What should we do with Jesus Christ? This is a somewhat absurdly humorous question, as the real question isn't what we should do with Jesus, but what he will do with us. The image of a fly sitting down and deciding what it will do with an elephant has an element of humor about it. But perhaps the question should be how we understand him, in the sense of how we deal with the historical problem that this man's recorded words and deeds present to us. This problem is how to reconcile two things. On the one hand, you have an almost universal agreement about the insane clarity of his moral teachings, something that no one seriously doubts, even those who oppose Christianity. In fact, when I argue with people who are very anti-God, they often say that they fully support Christian moral teaching. And there seems to be a general consensus that in the teachings of this man and of his immediate followers, moral truth is revealed in its purest and best form. It's not sentimental idealism. It's full of intelligence and wisdom. This whole thing is practical, fresh at the highest level, the product of a sane mind. It's a phenomenon. The other phenomenon is the completely terrible theological claims that this man made. You all know what I mean, and I want to emphasize that the terrible claims this man seemed to be making weren't simply made at one point in his career. Of course, there was a point that led to his execution, the point at which the high priest asked him, "Who are you?" He replied, "I am the Anointed One, the uncreated Son of God, and you will see me appearing at the end of history as the judge of the universe." But that claim isn't just based on that dramatic moment. When you carefully examine his conversation, you see that this type of claim runs throughout his conversation. For instance, he went around telling people that he forgave their sins. Now, perfectly natural for a man to forgive something someone else has done to him. For example, if someone cheats me out of £5, I can reasonably say, "All right, I forgive him. Let's not talk about it anymore." But what would you say if someone had cheated you out of £5 and I said, "It's okay, I forgive him"? Then there's a strange thing that seems to slip out on one occasion when this man was sitting looking down at Jerusalem from a hill. And suddenly he says a strange sentence. "I keep sending you prophets and wise men." No one comments on it, but suddenly, almost accidentally, he is claiming to be the power that has sent prophets and leaders into the world for centuries. Here's another strange statement. In almost every religion, there are unpleasant rules like fasting. And this man suddenly says one day, "No one needs to fast when I'm here." Who is this man who claims that his presence supersedes all the usual rules? Who is the one who can suddenly tell the whole class they can take half a day off? Sometimes the statements are made with the assumption that he, the speaker, is completely sinless or flawless. This is always the attitude. You, the ones I'm talking to, are sinners, and he never implies that the same criticism could be made against him. He further says, "I am the Son of God before Abraham was. I am." And remember, the words "I am" in Hebrew are the name of God that no one is allowed to say, a name that speaking aloud meant death. That's the other side. On the one hand, clear and definitive moral teaching. On the other, it claims that if untrue, the person making them is a madman compared to whom Hitler was the sanest and humble man. There's no middle ground and there's no comparison in other religions. If you ask Buddha if he was the son of Brahma, he would say, "My child, you are still in the veil of illusion." If you ask Socrates if he is Zeus, he will laugh at you. If you ask Muhammad if he was Allah, he would first tear your clothes off and then cut your head off. If you ask Confucius if he was heaven, I think he would reply, "Statements that are not in accord with nature are not good." The idea of a great moral teacher saying the things that Jesus said is simply unimaginable. In my opinion, the only person who could say that sort of thing is either God or a completely insane person, suffering from a delusion that destroys the entire human mind. If you think you're a poached egg when you're looking for some toast to eat, you may be sane, but if you think you're God, there's no chance for you. We might add that he was never regarded as merely a moral teacher. He didn't produce that effect on any of the people who actually met him. He produced mainly 3 effects: hatred, terror, and adoration. There was no trace of people expressing mild approval. What should we do to reconcile these 2 contradictory phenomena? One effort is to say that this man really didn't say these things, but his followers exaggerated the story, and thus the myth arose that he had said them. This is difficult because his followers were all Jews, meaning they belonged to the people who of all others were most convinced that there was only one God and no one else could be. It's strange that this terrible creation of a religious leader arose among the one people on the whole earth who were least likely to make such a mistake. On the contrary, we get the impression that none of his immediate followers, even the New Testament writers, accepted this teaching easily. Another point is that according to that view, you would have to regard the records of this man as myths. And now, as a literary historian, I am completely convinced that, whatever the Gospels are, they are not myths. I've read a lot of myths, and I'm completely clear that they are not the same kind of thing. They are not artistic enough to be myth. From an imaginative point of view, they are clumsy. They don't build the story reasonably. Most of the life of Jesus is completely unknown, like anyone else living at that time, and not one who was constructing a myth would allow that to happen. Other than Plato's dialogues, I don't know of any dialogue in ancient literature that resembles the 4th Gospel. There was nothing similar in modern literature until about 100 years ago when realistic novels appeared. In the story of the woman caught in adultery, we're told that Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. Nothing comes of that. No one ever based any doctrine on it. And the art of imagining small, irrelevant details to make a scene more convincing is entirely modern art. Certainly, the only explanation of this passage is that the thing really happened. He put it in simply because he had seen it. Then we come to the strangest story of all, the story of the resurrection. It is very necessary to be clear about this story. I have heard a man say that the importance of the resurrection is that it provides evidence of life after death, evidence that human personality survives death. In that view, what happened to Jesus would be what always happens to everyone. The difference being that in the case of Jesus, we were allowed to witness it happening. And this is certainly not what the earliest Christian writers thought. A totally new event in the history of the universe had happened. Jesus had defeated death. The door that had always been locked had for the first time been opened. This is something quite different from mere survival of the soul. I want to say that they didn't believe in mere survival of the soul. On the contrary, they believed in it so strongly that not once did Jesus have to assure them that he wasn't a ghost. It's remarkable that although they believed in life after death, they still regarded the resurrection as something entirely different and new. The resurrection stories aren't pictures of survival after death. They record how an entirely new mode of existence has arisen in the universe. Something new has emerged in the universe, as new as the first appearance of organic life. This man after death was not divided into a ghost and a corpse. A new mode of existence has arisen. That's the story. What are we to make of it? Question, I suppose, is whether any hypothesis fits the facts. Oh, there's the Christian hypothesis. That hypothesis is that God has come down into the created world, down to humanity, and up again, pulling it all with him. The alternative hypothesis isn't a myth, isn't an exaggeration, isn't the embodiment of a ghost, madness or lies. Unless you can accept the second hypothesis, and I can't, then you are left with the Christian theory. What are we to make of Jesus? There is no question of what we can make of him. It is entirely a question of what he intends to make of us. You must accept or reject the story. What he said is very different from what any other teacher said. Others said, here is the truth about the universe. This is the way you should go. But he said, I am the truth and the way and the life. He said, no one can reach the absolute except through me. Try to retain your life, and you will inevitably be ruined. Give yourself away, and you will be saved. He said, if you are ashamed of me, if when you hear this call, you turn the other way, I will also look away when I come again as God without disguise. If anything whatever is keeping you from God and from me, whether it is something you are ashamed of or something you are proud of, whatever it is, throw it away. If it is your eye, pluck it out. If it is your hand, cut it off. If you put yourself first, you will be lost. Come to me, all you who are heavy burdened, I will set it right. All your sins, everything is wiped out. I can do that. I am the rebirth, I am the life. Eat me, drink me, I am your food. And finally, do not be afraid, I have overcome the whole universe. That's the issue. If you like this video and want to continue exploring how C.S. Lewis's thoughts can impact your life, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. His love for you is everlasting. Open your heart to his boundless love and light. God bless you.